Man, this is going to be a doozy. Hey everyone, this is Part-Time Video Gamer, and 2025 has been quite a year for video games. When I started this channel many moons ago, but the top of this calendar year, this was not the year that I anticipated the industry having. Now I know it's been a minute since I've posted something, and honestly, the reason for that is because I've kind of just been overwhelmed by the state of the industry. I genuinely don't recognize the gaming industry right now. This isn't just another video where Millennial gets on here and, old man shakes their fists at clouds type thing, but it really has been a crazy year. And, we've had a crazy year leading up to 2025. Lots of layoffs, lots of instability in the gaming industry. But this is probably the peak. This is the worst that I have seen the industry. And I've been gaming for, I don't know, probably like 2/3 of my life at this point. And, the heart of Part-Time Video Gamer is, this is a place where I want to come and share memories, fun things about gaming, why I'm passionate about the hobby. Maybe once in a while comment on stuff going on in the industry, new interesting games to play. But it's just been a train wreck. It's been a train wreck, and it's been hard to look away. I'm trying to bring a positive, feel-good message on this channel. I'm not trying to bring doom and gloom. I'm not trying to bring people down because the world has enough of that. This is supposed to be positive, uplifting. But even with my very, very limited, tiny space here in gaming world, gaming YouTube, so much has happened that I feel like I owe it to just the community at large to say something, because using our voice is the most important thing that we have. And so many people have said things, so many people have gotten into so many conflicts and shouting matches online, keyboard matches, whatever you want to call it. And I'm not one to generally like to do that sort of thing, but I had to express my thoughts and feelings on this because I love gaming so much, because I'm passionate about it, because I want other people to experience this hobby that has been life-changing for me. I don't even know where to begin. I have multiple times this year wanted to make this video. When I think things couldn't get worse in the gaming industry, it just felt like every week another company was like, hey, just hold my beer. I'm going to do this thing. And it was just crazy. It was just crazy. I've only made 3 videos on the channel, but maybe from some of them, you can kind of guess that I'm a pretty big Nintendo fan. I grew up with Nintendo. They're a big part of my childhood. For a long time, they were a company that, even though I know they were trying to make money, I felt connected to them. I felt connected to the people there. I felt connected to their drive for innovation. I appreciated when they took big swings on games and things. And all that to say, this year has been very difficult to be a Nintendo fan. I found myself being more ambivalent and at times very frustrated and angry with them as a company. And that's hard for me to say because Nintendo is part of really special memories I have playing games growing up. I mean, you can look at the games behind me. 60% of those are Nintendo consoles. Nintendo has a special place in my memory, in my gaming heart. And so just to see how the company has really, in my opinion, taken a nosedive with the Switch 2 and the handling of everything with that has been really rough to see. I've wanted to make this video multiple times. Different things have set me off. Nintendo, how the Switch 2 was revealed, priced, lack of, just withholding information from us, the gamers, the precedent they set by raising prices of everything. It didn't sit well with me. It doesn't sit well with me. It still doesn't sit. People ask me, are you going to get a Switch 2? And I'm like, no, I don't know. I'm really torn about this because, I'm somebody who has really appreciated and loved Nintendo over the years, but I'm not going to go defend a company that is actively trying to gouge consumers and is doing all these things that are anti-consumer. And, this is a trend. If you have been in gaming for any number of time, we go through these cycles where companies are on top. They just, so much of their practices shift to anti-consumer, doing things to just make the most money. And when companies are the underdog, generally they're trying to champion players. They're trying to be very pro-gamer, give them added value in their games and their pricing, all these different things. And I don't know if it's just like formative years of my life, Nintendo was in that spot. The Wii U, Nintendo was at one of their lowest points, if not their lowest point. And all those things rang true about them being pro-gamer, trying to give you the best value that they could, really trying to take big swings what they could in making their games. And they built up a lot of goodwill from the Wii U going into the Switch, even though the Wii U was a failure. Like, they really knocked it out of the park with the Switch, and for the last 7 going on 8 years, they built up so much credibility, so much goodwill with people, love their games, all this stuff. And then just in 6 months of the Switch 2 being out, has it been 6 months? I don't know. They just burned through all of it. I can't bring myself to support a company and practices and all these things that they're doing. And for the time being, Nintendo will not get more money from me. I've told a lot of people I think the Switch is where I stop right now. I have a ton of games. I have a huge backlog. There's retro games. We'll come back to that in a minute. But I don't need the Switch 2 to still enjoy gaming. So that's just one instance. Like I said, this has been the darkest timeline. More things have happened this year that have just hurt the gaming industry. We'll just talk kind of about the big 3 right now. All of them ended up raising the prices of their consoles, which is wild because this is the 7th or the 8th year of these consoles. We're at the end of the life cycle of this generation, and they are raising console prices. A lot of people claim all these different reasons. If you're here in the United States, it's like tariffs, people say inflation, all these things, and these are real things, but companies will use any excuse to raise prices and never bring them down. Never in my life have I seen this happen in the gaming industry. Consoles that are 7+ years old getting price increases. Nintendo, Sony, Microsoft doing it again. And I cannot believe that. We're talking about Microsoft. The most recent thing that really pushed me over the edge to make this video, to come back and to talk about things, is the whole thing with Game Pass. Microsoft has kind of been on a self-destructive path for a while. And, talk about goodwill. They don't have goodwill, and they are the underdog, and they have been the underdog for a while. And that's not to say that Microsoft doesn't have good games, it doesn't have good studios, but they have made increasingly poor choices in having great studios and then shutting them down, having tons of layoffs, buying up massive developers in the gaming space and then doing nothing with them, or running those games into the ground, those franchises just destroying them, lying outright about games, saying like, hey, we're going to make this game, and then just canceling it. Oh, that wasn't really a game. Gaslight the community. The icing on top of the cake, the cherry on top, is they decide to raise the price of Game Pass. And not just raise it, double the price for the premium level, the premium tier of Game Pass, which is what everybody pays for. Getting day one AAA exclusives drop is $30 now. Microsoft has lost their mind. But, honestly, we have kind of seen the writing on the wall. Everything's an Xbox. They have terrible marketing, and, they've basically given up the console war. And so they're just like, everything will be an Xbox. We'll put this on the app. We'll push everybody to cloud gaming. You're not going to own your games. And the only thing that we have good going for us right now is Game Pass. So we are going to just jack the price of that up and see who hangs on with us. I can't believe they did that, but it's nice to see that people canceled. Gamers spoke, and that's a big part of me making this video. It feels sometimes like your voice doesn't mean anything, but your voice does mean something. And people spoke, and they said, I am not going to pay this price, and I'm going to cancel Game Pass. And good for you, because Microsoft doesn't care about you. They don't care about me. We don't owe anything to these companies. And I know that's hard to make that separation because we have lots of memories tied to these franchises and these things that we have experiences with, but they don't owe us anything. And I don't owe them money if they're going to do things that are so anti-gamer, anti-consumer. The game development, the software, that whole part of the industry has been a mess in itself too. So many studios having these bloated budgets, stepping into all sorts of controversy about just running their mouths off about things that aren't even related to gaming. And we've seen the effects of this in the PR for the games. Some people would argue you see that in the content of the game or the lack of quality in the game. We definitely have seen the quality of games go down. Microtransactions and season passes and all that are the bane of my existence. And I remember, I don't know, when did microtransactions start? It feels like there's never been a time, it's like, before time, there were microtransactions. But I remember when microtransactions started to become a thing, and I pushed against them, and I pushed against DLC, and it's just the norm now. Developers half make these games, roll them out for $70, sometimes $80, if you want the whatever pass or thing. The game's not complete. You have huge day one patches. Games don't run well. They're not optimized well. They're not even finished. And then you pay like $30 or $40 more a month or two later to get DLC or season pass and all this stuff when games used to have to be complete. They had to ship functional. And it's just been a mess. All these things have been a mess. Developers just have lost sight of the audience. They don't know what people want in games. And so they say stupid things, they make stupid decisions. We get into all these things where people are saying, you're not going to own your games, and all these shady business practices because all these companies are just about turning a profit. And it feels like more and more of them have lost touch with gamers. Like most of the people, the executives there, they're not gamers. They don't care. They're just trying to make money. And so you see all these horrible practices and us moving towards a future where people don't own their games. And then you have all these other controversies brewing within the gaming community, Gamergate 2 or like 2.0 like people are talking about. And then you have the Stop Killing Games movement, which is, again, I talk about using your voice. It's people using their voice in the UK saying, hey, these companies are doing all these horrible practices and they are trying to rip off consumers. We won't even own our games is what they're saying. And, using their voices so much that it gets, elevated to a high enough level where people in the government are like, what's going on with this? All these things happening. The gaming industry is in fallout. The whole time this is happening, like I mentioned, we have these massive layoffs, companies laying people off due to bloat. Some, for AI things, like all these different things are happening. So many people talk about it. You probably see all the clickbait type videos on YouTube. It's like the gaming crash. We're in the bubble. All this stuff. It's like we are in the crash right now. We are free falling heavily. And honestly, in my opinion, I think that is a good thing. The gaming industry needs a hard reset. Because everything has become too bloated. All these things that are not, all the stuff that I just listed, none of that is related to making quality games. It's just all this other extra stuff that just weighs it down, that is so against the heart of gaming, so against everything that I think anyone who is passionate about gaming will tell you why they got into gaming. It's not about any of that stuff. Ooh, sorry. It's been boiling for a while. It's been simmering, and now it's finally boiling over. I restrained myself from making this video for so long. All this stuff's happening. We are in free fall right now. The bubbles burst, whatever metaphor that you want to use, and I'm happy. I'm not happy about the state of things, but I'm happy because we do need a hard reset. And things cannot continue like this. And companies need to wake the heck up and see, if you treat your audience like this, if you treat the people who are passionate about this, who made the community what it is that you are trying to just financially exploit, you will reap what you sow. In this case, people will not buy the things that you make, or you will be called out on it for things not being done or not having good quality. This is very doom and gloom. This is what I said I did not want to do. The gaming industry, gaming news is just, it's a hard thing. It's a hard place to be in. You know, mad respect to the people who do it day in and day out here on YouTube. But this isn't where the story ends, thankfully. There is hope. And there is redemption. You've probably been thinking through this whole video, like, why haven't I talked about any of the positive things? Or where are the indie games? What about indie games? Well, I'm glad you mentioned that. In a year that has been terrible for the AAA industry, and we're seeing that collapse right now, there is a new phoenix rising from the ashes. Actually, the indie community has been rising for a while. But this year has been one of note. And where the AAA industry has failed, the indie gaming community has had one of its best, if not its best year in a long time. You've seen the release of games like Expedition 33, which is my game of the year. It's a game that I didn't know I needed until I played it. It's a game that helped me remember how much I miss gaming. I love JRPGs. I play a lot of them growing up. It's just harder to play them in my stage of life, but everybody raved about this game. I even had a friend who last year was telling me stuff about this game when it was revealed. Somehow I missed it, but this game, as I played it, and when I completed it, I couldn't stop thinking about it. I had to go back and play it more. Is one of those games that when I finished it, it was immediately on my top 10 list of best games ever played. And that's a hard thing to do, especially like when you've been gaming as long as I have. You've played a lot of games, and I don't really have a lot of modern games that crack that list. But Clair Obscur is an amazing game. Top 10 game for me, easily. It made me fall in love with gaming again in a time when it is very dark and I don't have hope. Expedition 33 gave me hope for those who come after. Oh man, what a game, what a game. But that's not the only game this year. There's been great indie games that have come out this year. Most recently, Silk Song. You know, it's huge. It's a huge game. You know, I don't need to tell you about this. It shut down digital storefronts. People were crazy, you know, crashed everything. People were trying to get a hold of this game. Amazing game. You know, I've still yet to play it. It's on the list. Amazing game from a team that made an amazing first game and a huge community that supported them. Team Cherry, what a game. What a game. And then to come at the price point that this game came out, you know, same with Clair Obscur. You can pick up Expedition 33 for $50. The value in that game is incredible. The value in a game like Silk Song is incredible. You had other indie games this year. Hades 2 came out. And, you know, I knew Hades was big. I knew it was a big game. I actually picked Hades up recently, the top of this calendar year. You know, it's everywhere. You can buy it on anything. I found it on a sale. And I have loved that game. And roguelites are not even really, like, they're not on my radar in terms of, like, oh yeah, I'm going to go seek that out. But I've heard so many good things about Hades. Once you get into it, you just see the love and the craft and the beauty, everything that was put into this game. And such a great gameplay loop and mechanic and the story and everything. People care about this game, and you can totally see it. But so many games this year. Expedition 33, Silk Song, Hades 2. There's other games I haven't talked about, like The Blueprints. Lots of indie games picking up the slack where the AAA industry has failed. And that's my hope. That is my hope. Indie games are the way forward. You look at it financially, it's like you're making games with reasonable budgets that aren't super bloated. You're doing things, you're spending more time assuring the quality of the game, and you can definitely tell. You can tell when the quality is there, when people care about their games. And that's the other big thing I love about all these indie devs. It's people who love games, who care about games. Yes, we know the gaming industry is an industry. People have to make money. But more importantly than that is the love of the game, the heart of the game. And that's what AAA has just completely lost sight of. Everything is just a franchise. Gotta make money, monetize it, get more content out there, all this stuff. And in the indie community, there's people who actually care about games. There's people who actually give a damn about games. I'm usually a little bit more PG, but this gets me riled up. They give a damn, and you can tell. I'm somebody who, I got into indie games a little bit later in my life, not that late, but, like 2013-ish. But that's where I found hope. That's where I found my refuge in gaming, that and my backlog. And that's the other big thing. Some people have talked about, I haven't heard it enough. The other thing, you can use your voice to tell these companies, I'm not going to play the new stuff that you put out that's not good, that's not quality, that has all these different issues that we've talked about. But there is a plethora of retro games. And even the net of what is considered retro has expanded now. I always used to think retro was like Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis and Jaguar and, like all that era. And that was for me growing up. I played a Super Nintendo, but, I'm thinking like 360 era, PS3, like in those times, it's like, that was retro. But now PS3 and 360 and Wii, that is retro. And PS4 and Wii U, like even that is kind of falling into that realm now. And what I can tell you about those eras of gaming, those were some of the best eras of gaming. Not because of rose-colored millennial nostalgia glasses, but because developers cared. And because it wasn't all about microtransactions and passes and making money. And yes, that started to creep in that generation. But for the most part, in those earlier generations, you had to ship a good game. You had to ship a quality game. What was on the disc, what was on the cartridge, like that had to be a good game. It had to be a complete game. And even if, as we got later into like PS4 and we were going to do DLC, the initial offering had to be there or people weren't going to buy into it. It wasn't necessarily the status quo of everything has season pass, everything has DLC, all this stuff. And that's where we can go as gamers. We can go to our backlog. We can go to retro gaming. There are hundreds of videos on YouTube. If you're looking for good retro games, or if you're looking for something that's like, I want to play something great from the 7th generation or the 6th generation or whatever, you can find it. Message me, ask me. I will tell you great games to play. Explore new consoles. Explore ideas of things when people cared and when people were taking big swings. AAA is so sanitized now. It's so safe. People just regurgitate the same stuff, and it's not good because they don't know what made these games good. There's games back in these past generations, even if they weren't perfect, people were taking big swings. People cared. People wanted to make a statement. Games like, I don't know, I'm just thinking top of my head, a game like No More Heroes, Suda51, he's not even my favorite developer, but I'm just thinking, big swings, Grasshopper Studio, big swings. Who would have thought to make a game like that? But it's a complete thing, it's got its blemishes, but what a heck of an experience, something that stays with you. There's so many more, there's so many other games I could talk about. That's where we can go. That's where we can go. That's where the community can still live and be alive and have the passion between our backlogs and the ever-expanding realm of retro games. Because like I said, it's not just NES, Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis, N64. It's not just that anymore. It has expanded Gosh, talk about good games. It's like so many great, amazing. If you love RPGs, if you love JRPGs, the PS2 era, what a time. Some of the best JRPGs I've played ever were on the PS2. Final Fantasy X, you can fight me about it. Game that inspired a generation of people to pick up JRPGs. Oh my gosh. That's where I believe the gaming community is moving towards. It's moving towards embracing the past, the retro, the expanding retro, and champion the future with indie games. Indie games are leading the way because it's people who care. It's people who give a damn. It's people who want to make good games. And that's, I believe, how the gaming industry is going to grow. The AAA industry is in free fall right now. When it finally hits the bottom and the dust settles, maybe then companies will realize, hey, we have to do something different. But I think they're going to be trying to do the same strategy the whole way down. And maybe companies will change their tune. You know, maybe Nintendo will be like, we probably shouldn't operate like this. Maybe Sony will actually make some games this generation. I don't know. Not just remaster everything that they made on the PS4. Maybe Microsoft will change. I don't think they will. What I do know for certain is that the gaming industry is not what it used to be. I don't recognize it right now. But I do have hope that there is a future and that games can continue. I apologize for this video being so long. Like I said, this has been a simmering level of frustration that has finally bubbled over in this video. And like I said, it can feel like, what is the point of saying these things? But the point is to inform other people who might not be so much in the know, and it's to encourage other people who are in the know, who are in the gaming community, who might feel like they're isolated by themselves. A lot of the times I feel like I'm by myself. The friends that I have who still kind of play video games, they're not really in it as much as I do. They just kind of have it. It's like a fun pastime. Like I'm the one who's in depth. Like, you know, I have one other friend, but I don't see him that often. We don't get to talk. This for me is an outlet to get to talk about this stuff. And like I said, on this channel, to share positive memories, to encourage people to play, try different games, to talk, to spotlight games that I think are interesting, maybe people have never heard of. But even with my limited, tiny little channel here, the little bit of exposure that I have to say something about this because it's important. And I love gaming, and I want people to experience gaming like I did. I don't want people to be priced out of it. I don't want people to think this is too expensive, or there's only one way to be a gamer. You have to like the mainline Assassin's Creed and the new crappy Call of Duty and a cut-at-the-knees Mario Kart to be a gamer now. It's like, no, there's so many other ways to do it that are very accessible, that don't price people out of the hobby. And I want to share that with people. That is my heart. So thank you again for listening to this video. Sorry that it's so long. My hope is to return to your regularly scheduled featured programming here on Part-Time Video Gamer. So until next time, go play a new game, something you've never experienced, hopefully an indie game. And don't forget to use your voice. It's powerful.